Well, it is what it is, y'all. They done found that young man guilty. Carmelo Anthony, they done found him guilty, y'all. And they done sentenced him all in one day. 35 years. Mm, that's a lot of time. So I'm raising this question to you guys. Is it okay to get punked and just walk away? You can't inflict bodily harm on anybody. You know, I remember when I was growing up, it was a fist fight. Now people, they have a weapon. That other person talking a whole bunch of jive to you, and they push you, and you thinking in your mind, okay, I got the right to protect myself. You stab them or you shoot them, you can get sentenced. Your whole life can be destroyed over something like that right now in these days and times. So that's why I asked that question. Should you just punk out and just walk away if somebody provoke you in any kind of way? That's what I'm asking you guys tonight, man. Y'all hop in the chat and let me know, man. Should you walk away if somebody's trying to punk you instead of trying to defend yourself? Especially if you're not meeting with. What's up, Richard? Richard, we're talking live and direct in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, man. The story that rocked the whole nation. Carmelo Anthony has been found guilty today, and they gave him a sentence today to 35 years in jail. What's y'all opinion in that, man? Let's get in the chat room. Let's talk about that. But back to what I was saying. Those days of you really got to know the law. And just because you hear people say that whole stand your ground law and all that stuff, just because what I learned from this case right here, because I believe they got the same ground law in Tennessee. What I learned that when it comes to that stand your ground law, it seems like to me you got to have meet with equal force. You know what I'm saying? So, say for instance, if somebody push, just what happened in this case, they say that Austin pushed Carmelo, and he told him, "Push me one more time, and I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do." And that's when that happened, it popped out. Let's see what Richard said. I have no idea. I'm from Russia. I don't know what's happening in the U.S. Oh shit! Shout out to Richard. He's in Russia. Well, anyway, man, we had a. I'm gonna break it down to you, bro. What happened in Texas? I don't know if you're familiar with the states, individual states, but in Texas. We had two high school kids was running track at a track meet, and it was supposed to be raining, and the black team went up under the tent to get out of the rain. Now in American sports, Richard, in the sports world, you don't go into anybody's locker room. So in the track world, that tent is the same thing as your house. You don't go in anybody's house and disrespect it. So that's how they looked at it. Carmelo Anthony didn't go to the school. The black kid did not go to that school. So they felt like he didn't have the right to sit up under that tent. They didn't give a damn if it was raining or not. So they tried to forcibly get him up out of there. Basically, make a long story short, he ended up stabbing the dude. Today, He was found guilty and sentenced to 35 years. Yeah. But let's get into, I'm going to show you, we're going to see what's really going on because I was actually just scrolling on YouTube and seeing when he was actually sentenced. They said they just got him out the courtroom, so let's check it out.
Home and all of that, that is immediately held insufficient, which means that you are then taken into custody at that moment. So Carmelo Anthony, and when that verdict of guilty was read, his bond was held insufficient, and he was immediately taken into custody at that time. Now, obviously, we went directly into sentencing, right? So it wasn't as if he had to then go check into the jail and then come back tomorrow. Everything has happened all at one time. And so now his next steps are that he actually has to be processed into the Collin County Jail. He will just sort of, if you've ever been arrested.
That's him. Look at him.
You get fingerprints.
Look at him, y'all.
And all of these kinds of things.
That's him.
That is going to happen
Check him out.
for Carmelo Anthony now. He's going to be transported by the Sheriff's Department to the Collin County Jail.
That ain't him, is it?
Processed through the intake department. He will be changed out and dressed out into jail clothes. And as of today, he will begin his sentence of 35 years.
Shit.
And that's happening now, and then he will be at
that's
the
him.
Collin
Is that
County
him?
Jail until the Texas Department of Corrections
No, that ain't him.
brings the bus through
That's right. So
North Texas
yes,
and take their pickups.
that's exactly right. So most people will process through Huntsville, which is sort of like a processing transfer type of facility. So he will get picked up from the Collin County Jail along with any other defendant that's been sentenced to prison. They come, once or twice a week. It depends on how busy your jail is in Dallas County. They come pretty often. And they will pick up all of the inmates that have been sentenced.
I'm going to say this right here, y'all.
To the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division. They will be taken to.
I feel some kind of way about this case. I admit, I feel some way about this case. I knew it was going to be surrounded between with a whole bunch of propaganda out there because of black and white and race and stuff. I mean, it is what it is. But I'm gonna tell y'all, man, this is my personal opinion. I knew they was gonna find Carmelo guilty. I knew, but I was praying that they was gonna give him a light sentence. I was hoping they was gonna give him, because they say from 5 to 99 years is what he was facing. So I was praying and hoping that he was gonna get at least 8 to 10 years. You know what I'm saying? Give the young man a little time to live his life. But he's gonna be an old man. He's gonna be older than I am when he get out of jail. Some people talking about he might do 18 years and stuff like that, but it don't matter. He did. I'm gonna tell you when I knew it was over for him. When he stabbed him and he ran away. You don't run away talking about self-defense. To me, I feel like if somebody fucking with me and I stab one of the people in the group, I'm gonna stay there, because to me that's real self-defense. And I don't want to hear nothing about, oh yeah, he was a kid and all that kind of stuff right there. First of all, what is he doing with a knife? They said the knife was legal to have, and it wasn't a crime to have it on the school ground, which is shocking to me. But this is a sad situation, y'all. Let's get back to it.
Huntsville, but generally Huntsville, where you're going to get processed, you're going to get classified. There's going to be a determination of sort of what level of, sort of confinement that you need. Carmelo Anthony was kind of high profile, so he may be in protective custody while he's in the Collin County Jail, and that may follow him when he goes to TBC for some period of time. He's very young, so that has to be taken into consideration. So there's a lot of factors that the not only the jail, but TBC has to factor in, because they actually have a responsibility, as they should, to ensure that while Carmelo Anthony is in their custody, whether it be the Collin County Jail or the Texas Department.
This is another thing that will piss me off. Another thing that pissed me off, y'all. I was telling my wife today, when they say judged by peers and stuff like that, my personal opinion, the young man was 19 years old. We all know the procedures of being a juror. You have to have the first of all have the right to vote. I mean, you register to vote in order to be a juror. How come they didn't get any jurors that was his age? Because it says, you need to be judged by your peers and stuff like that. So how come it wasn't the 12 people wasn't 19, 20, 21, at the most 25 years old? You know what I'm saying? And another thing that pissed me off is why they didn't have the black people on there. If you're gonna do somebody's peers, other than teenagers, how come y'all didn't have the black folks on the jury? I don't understand that. You kicked them off, and then you had. Well, I read something about you had Asian stuff like that. I don't understand that. That what really pissed me off. It kind of reminded me of Emmett Till. Y'all do your research on Emmett Till. Or back in the 50s, what little black kid got killed in Mississippi, and he was judged by not his peers, because the jury was all white men. 15 minutes later, found the guy's not guilty for killing him. We all know they did it. Let's get back into it, y'all.
Criminal justice, that Carmelo Anthony remains safe. And so they have to classify him to ensure that they're putting him in the most appropriate place where he can remain safe as he begins to serve his sentence. Now, again, even though all of that's going to happen, it's important that everybody understand that there's a bunch of other things that are happening in the background as it relates to, again, you have to file your notice of appeal. You have to file your notice for new trial. You have a bunch of stuff that you have to do that are happening in the background, even though Carmelo Anthony's trajectory is that he's headed straight to TDC. He will also, his lawyers will also take care of a whole bunch of other things that are protecting his rights as he goes through the system.
And we don't know when he will go to TDC. That's always a secret as well. The train, as it is called, or the chain, can come in the middle of the night or 6 in the morning. There's no notification for, as you might well imagine, security reasons, Clarice, that happens the way it does.
And there's just one more victim impact statement from Hunter, just concluding. He says, he took my brother, my best friend from this world, caused a lot of pain, took who was supposed to be
I got you looking clean.
Sad situation, y'all.
I feel so lucky to have a partner like Mac. He keeps the house pristine, even when he's playing his favorite game, Royal Kingdom.
All right, welcome back in here to Lions
So
Now.
all that shit talking about what you gonna do to a motherfucker and this and that. In today's society, man, it's best just to walk away. It's best just in today's society, in today's America, in Trump land, you need to walk away, because you got people out here that's willing to try that fucking law, stand your ground, trying to stand their ground, don't even really know what the real true law is, not meeting force with force, and they gonna kill your motherfucking ass thinking they standing their ground. And then you might be out there talking shit, and you got your goddamn it on your waistline, and they see it, because you got to have it. You can't just have it on you and hiding it. You think you bold? Somebody push you, you pull their gun, they pull their gun, they kill you. That's real standing your ground right there. So basically, the moral of the story, man, is just stand down. Be quiet. one thing I learned for working at my job, man, y'all, so everybody that follow me, y'all know I work at Walmart. It's been going pretty good. I've been there about 7 months. But one thing I learned is have people in your face no more than 5 minutes. Do whatever it needs to be done when you're dealing with somebody and get them in and out of your face in 5 minutes. That's one thing I learned by working at Walmart. But the moral of the story, man, chill. Don't be out there causing no fucking problems where somebody will have to stand their ground on you. Because this young man here, 19 years old, 35 years, I don't know how many years he gonna be in there, but I know he gonna be in that motherfucker a long time. I pray and hope that he don't kill himself. Because they say he was crying and shaking. I was watching somebody, they was talking about how his team was sorry as hell. They didn't really show him any love. And God bless his mama, man. They say his mama was mascara coming down her face. They say his daddy wasn't even in the courtroom. From one of my sources tell me, goddamn it, that the daddy had some warrants so he couldn't come to the state of Texas or some shit like that. It's crazy, man.
From Fox, I am Andy Mack. Following the jury reaching a guilty verdict in this Carmelo Anthony murder trial, as he now, for the fatal stabbing of a fellow student during a high school track meet last year, we saw plenty of reaction outside of this Collin County courthouse, as this case has been marked by controversy, racial tensions, and public demonstrations. And this is from Fox News saying the courthouse and crowds outside of it erupted in rage moments after a jury convicted Carmelo Anthony of murdering Austin Metcalf, as the scene turned chaotic and led to several physical altercations. And these are some of the moments that our Fox 4 camera, they were witnessing as well outside of this, going face to face, having these conversations. And this one didn't get physical, but others did, and that is concerning.
I barely trying to charge my motherfucking phone, though.
Law enforcement on the ground.
There we
This
go.
is a live picture high above Cruiser Skybox cam. You can see some of the barricades, the law enforcement officers on hand for this. It's a hot day in Dallas, so some people seeking shade right now, but we saw about 100 or so people out about there watching.
Richard, what you was in prison for?
In
10 years? For 10 years? What you was locked up for, bro?
Bringing the conversation right now, former Fort Worth Police Chief Jeff Halstead. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. And obviously they're deciding how long Carmelo Anthony will be behind bars. 5 to 99 years is what they're weighing. What is law enforcement doing right now to quell some of those tensions?
Well, this has been weeks of planning, because as soon as they set this court date, they have crime analysts and other detectives that are monitoring social media feeds, and they're kind of, assessing some of the preliminary frustration and or concerns on multiple sides of the community. So then when they get close to a verdict, which they did today, you can see the semblance of a multi-agency response. Now, this is a very soft deployment, meaning it's just uniforming cars that are present. The heat does bring in a concern, because the long-term protesting or, public frustration can be limited, but it's really going to be curious what the sentencing phase is on how this escalates from this point forward. But law enforcement in Collin County already has a very solid plan of addressing any potential outcomes, or public outbursts could become violent. But right now, it's been fairly calm, even though there's a little bit of outrage there at the beginning.
Yeah, some tensions, some tense moments earlier on today. This happening at the Collin County Courthouse in McKinney, Texas. So the fact, the venue, obviously no cameras inside of the courtroom, likely no people as well. Does the venue, how do they weigh that? How much are they keeping them off some of these grounds?
Yeah, they have a good perimeter set up with the physical barricades there and the police presence. But you got to remember in Collin County and literally in the majority of metro areas across the U.S., extremely strong relationships with law enforcement, private security, and personnel that really needs to keep the facility safe, as well as all the people that were attending the trial. So that's very, very critical. The plan right now, from all the stories I have seen in the last 4 hours, good response from law enforcement, well planned, and also a pretty balanced approach. Remembering a lot of these agencies bring in volunteers from the faith-based community to be within some of the crowds to try to calm them down. And also, it's a good intelligence strategy. Place a couple of plainclothes officers in those crowds, gather some of the discussion and some of the frustration, because it can give you a better semblance of what either they're planning or what could happen in the next few minutes or hours.
Yeah, what they're feeling on the ground. And as you mentioned, some of these coming face to face, these are moments from earlier on today. You can see them talking, and obviously the racial overtones, the tensions are bubbling over. How much does law enforcement have to balance it? Because this is obviously a conversation, a heated conversation. How much do they monitor this? How much are they making sure that they can express their opinion without it turning violent?
Around here, we serve down-home comfort food that's close to home. Big plates, familiar faces, and small-town vibes that hit just right. The chicken is crispy, the pancakes are stacked, and the burgers are juicy. So go all out to eat at Metro Diner.
You shouldn't be trying to steal my house.
I live here, please.
No, you don't.
And that's when the squatter standoff started.
I've seen every scam in the book. I thought.
Get the out of our house.
Tired of dentures slipping out or falling out? You can't enjoy your favorite meal. You avoid social events, and smiling feels fake. Snapping dentures change everything. They lock in place, feel stable, and let you eat, talk, and laugh without fear. Our patients say it's like having real teeth again. The freedom, the confidence, the joy.
That is, boy, that's, probably the goal of any law enforcement agency when you're dealing with a public outrage like this. That is actually key. Now, if you watch.
Let's hear what this bitch got to say.
I regret to tell you that Dominique Alexander is speaking outside of the courthouse. Of course, because he's not going to miss his 2 minutes of fame. And you'll be shocked to hear his messaging. Let's play it.
This process is shown that Black lives do not matter in Collin County. It showed us that time and time in American history, it put emotions over the law. After Trayvon Martin and so many countless names, it has shown us that Black life is not safe in Collin County. It showed us that they did not listen to the law. It showed clearly that a judge interfered in this process. It showed very clearly that a Black boy was allowed, not one Black soul on a jury.
Ashley, OMG.
It makes me so mad because it's not true. Like, it's just not true. That's not how jury selection works. It's just not true. And so, I mean, yes, it's unfortunate that it was an all-white jury, but his lawyers pitched that jury. It's a process of deselection. If the lawyers thought that it was unfair and that it was somehow biased, they could have objected. They could have paneled the jury. They could have moved to shuffle. I've done all of that. There's so many things you can do if you actually think there's some systematic exclusion of any race, sex, gender, anything. You can move to reshuffle. I mean, there's so many remedies. So, when I hear him, I'm like, he's clearly not a lawyer out there talking about something that he doesn't have any business talking about. And it's very frustrating because these citizens have given up their lives for a week and, listening to doing jury duty and actually having to sit through all of this weighs very heavy on these jurors. I've talked to a ton of jurors after the fact, and we were just at CrimeCon, and they actually had a panel of ex-jurors who were talking about the profound impact it had. When he gets up there and he says this, it just devalues that civic duty that they're doing when they're doing jury duty. And you know they're paying attention to this case. You know that they're weighing these lives very carefully, the lives, you know, that were lost and the life that they have in their hands, Mr. Anthony's life. And it's just very unfortunate to see their service, their civic duty discounted like that and just tossed aside and said that, you know, they're racist because they voted with the law and with the evidence.
Oh, and Viva,
No,
this shows, the verdict shows black men are not safe in Collin County. The decedent is a dead man, as a dead white man. He's a dead white man, not a black man. Get it straight, Dominique.
It's utterly absurd, but just so the media doesn't pounce on Ashley, that there were minorities on the panel, so it wasn't all white. There was a couple of Asians, a Muslim woman, I think Latino. As far as it goes, though, the argument of the intersectionality of racism is that it was of no use to a black defendant to have minorities who are not black because you wouldn't have that collegiality as though that's what you're supposed to have in a jury pool. It's supposed to be a jury of your peers, not a jury of your supporters.
Yeah.
And, you know, some people might argue, well, you know, the Asian community might not have things in common with the black community, so therefore it's not even like having put it in quotes, a useful minority on the jury pool. But the idea that they can come out and suggest, and at least the saving grace is, it seems to be a very small handful of people who are free during the day to go and protest in front of a cut-and-dry murder case. So it's not a broader scale thing. But
I agree with them on that. I agree with them on that because I don't think it's gonna be no nationwide uproar over this. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna be past this in 3 days. You know what I'm saying? I don't like to compare it to Trayvon Martin. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a whole different, totally whole different situation. You know what I'm saying? Trayvon Martin was a victim, just like Austin Metcalf was the victim. But Trayvon Martin was demonized. He was motherfucking portrayed as a YN before the term YN even became a slogan in culture right now. But Austin Metcalf, he was a high school superstar, track, football. Had a bright future ahead of him. But let's see what Richard said. Richard said, you hear about the Henry Novick situation in the UK? Who is Henry Novick, Richard? He also said, what do you think about the UFC at the White House? Personally, I like the UFC at the White House. Personally, my personal opinion. Yeah, I'm a fan of that. That's a pretty cool idea. I will say this right here though. Since I'm giving y'all my personal opinion, let me get my bottle. Make me a drink right quick. Speaking on that UFC fight, he better have nothing but white guys out there fighting. He better not have no motherfucking black guys out there fighting in the yard in the White House, because I'm going to tell y'all why. And I'm going to see if y'all are going to agree with me. I don't give a fuck if you agree with me or not, but it's just, I'm giving you my opinion. I'm giving y'all some history right quick first. Slaves built the White House, is what they put out there in the education that I received in Mississippi. Slaves built the White House. How would it look if at outside the White House in the yard, if you had two black guys out there fighting, brawling each other in the yard of the White House. Just think. I need you to think deep on that right there. Think deep on that right there. If you, that's what I would. That's what I would see. I'm not asking anybody to agree with me. I'm just telling you that's what I would see. If he had two black guys out there fighting in the yard at the White House, that's like look about two niggas out here fighting for their freedom or whatever. That would be. I can see Trump doing some shit. Oh shit. Is that guy telling me to stop? Oh shit. Oh. But yeah, I'm telling you. Shout out to my wife, she in the chat. You'll see White House will have a lot of Brazilians. I mean, hey, yeah, but when that fight happened, bro, like I said, as a fan of UFC, I get that. I get what Trump what Trump is doing as a fan. That's something that we ain't never seen. You know, you want to bring something new to the White House. I get that. But I was just thinking of something else, you know, a whole nother picture of giving you guys a whole new idea of my personal opinion, you know what I'm saying, out there. That would be crazy if shit like that had happened.
The woman who came out there, the black woman in the pink jersey, to say, if a white person puts their hands on me, see what happens to you. That's a criminal threat. We're not talking about self-defense. We're talking about murder. And what they're basically saying is what got Scott Adams in the deepest of trouble for. She is saying out loud what Scott Adams got canceled for. I don't want to be around white people. If a white person touches me, I feel entitled to murder them. That's what she said. Luckily, it's just a handful of what I think are crazies and not a broader sentiment, but maybe I'm being too optimistic.
No, you're right. It's actually a good point about the Scott Adams thing. Just the incendiary nature of this guy. I'm telling you, I mean, you tell me, Imran, it tells us something about these parents that they selected this man as their family spokesperson. He's not been fired after that presser from April of 2025. He's still there. He's outside of the courthouse, once again spewing off, mentioning Trayvon Martin after Trayvon Martin and so many countless names. It's shown us that black life is not safe in Collin County. I mean, look, I don't want to make this all about that nut, but he speaks for the family.
Right, but and you would hope, Megan, that he would be speaking accurately, but he's not, right? We're seeing a distortion about what happens in a criminal trial in the justice system, and this conclusory remarks, you know, making these assumptions as to what happened in that court. And then there's apples and oranges, right? Comparing this to Trayvon Martin. This is not that case.
Exactly.
I said the same case at all.
I said the same exact thing, y'all. You can't compare this to fucking Trayvon Martin. Not at all.
When conditions change by the hour, weather, demand, uncertainty, lineage is the degree that steadies it, made to move at the speed of disruption. So
Confrontation started after Anthony was sitting under a tent belonging to Metcalf's team. The defense has spent days arguing that Anthony acted in self-defense after Metcalf pushed him first, and now the question is whether they gave jurors enough evidence to believe it. The defense called one of Anthony's former teammates. He described Anthony as, quote, distraught after the stabbing, said he heard him crying and say, "I told him not to touch me."
On June 9th, 2026, a jury spoke, and they said one word, guilty. Now, I want you to sit with that for a second, because this verdict, this one word, is the end of a story that has gripped this entire nation for over a year. And today, we are going to break it all down. From the very beginning, Carmelo Anthony, 19 years old, a former high school football captain, a track star, a kid from Frisco, Texas, with college offers sitting on the table, that Carmelo Anthony was convicted today of first-degree murder. Now here's the thing. His defense team stood in that Collin County courtroom and told 12 jurors he acted in self-defense, that he was scared, that he had no choice. They said, put yourself in his shoes. A confrontation, a push, a split second. The jury didn't buy it. Less than 3 hours of deliberation. Unanimous. All 12 guilty of murder. And now Carmelo Anthony faces anywhere between 5 and 99 years in a Texas prison.
Lord, I hope they give
So
him
today,
5 years.
we are going to break this down. All of it. Who were these two young men? What happened that morning? What did the evidence show? How did the trial unfold? And now that the verdict is in, what does the rest of Carmelo Anthony's life actually look like? Can he appeal? Could he be paroled? Is there any path to a pardon? We are going to answer all of it, chapter by chapter. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's start here. And I want to start here deliberately, because in cases like this, it is so easy to reduce people to their worst moment, to make the victim a symbol and the accused a monster. And I don't think that serves anyone. So before we talk about a stabbing, before we talk about a trial, let's talk about who these two young men actually were. First, Austin Metcalf, 17 years old, a student at Frisco Memorial High School in Frisco, Texas. Now, here is something that makes this story even more heartbreaking. Austin had a twin brother, Hunter. They were close, the way twins often are. They competed together on the same track team. They trained together. They showed up to every meet together. Austin was the kind of kid coaches love. Competitive, driven, focused. A young man building something real for himself, one race at a time. His parents came to watch him compete that day. April 2nd, 2025, a normal Tuesday, a track meet. They had no idea what was coming. Now, Carmelo Anthony, born May 11th, 2007. Originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. His family eventually settled in Frisco, Texas. He was the oldest of 4 children. His father, Drew Anthony, was his biggest champion, posting on social media about Carmelo's victories, celebrating every touchdown, every personal best on the track. For Carmelo's birthday, Drew even surprised him with a Lexus IS 250. Think about that. That tells you the kind of household this was. Proud, invested, supportive. His mother, Kala Hayes Anthony, raised the family with love and faith at the center of everything. A close-knit Christian home, a stable environment, a family that believed in their son. And Carmelo, he was talented, really talented. 6 feet tall, captain of the Centennial Titans football team, a running back with real ability. On the track, he ran the 100 meters in 12.38 seconds, the 400 in 57.38. Colleges had noticed. Texas Lutheran, McPherson College, Centenary College, all of them reaching out, all of them saying, we want you. He had an uncle in the coaching world too. Andre Anthony, head football coach at Bonnabel Bruin football. Athletics ran deep in this family. Now, here is the detail that I think gets lost in all the noise. Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony had never met before April 2nd, 2025. Never. Not once. Different schools, different circles, no shared history, no bad blood, no prior conflict of any kind. 2 teenage boys, 2 different high schools in the same booming Dallas suburb, 2 athletic careers, 2 sets of parents who believed in them completely. And by the time that morning was over, one of them was dead, and the other would never truly be free again. Okay, quick pause before we go any further. Because this story right here is exactly the kind of case that should make all of us stop and think, not just about what happened in that tent, but about patterns, about warning signs, about the moments before everything falls apart and how most people never see them coming. There is a guide I want you to know about. It is called The Red Flag.
I just hold up. I just gotta say this, y'all. I just gotta say this, man. I believe Austin was on some bullying shit. I just have to say that. I believe he was on some bullying shit. He was with his group of people that he knew, that didn't know this black kid. I ain't even gonna say the word I really want to say. And I believe they came down there, and I wouldn't doubt if it was some racial slurs said. I wouldn't doubt it. Because if Austin didn't know the kid, the other kids didn't know the kid. So what the fuck are you doing here? At our tent. We don't give a fuck about it raining. And one thing led to another. He's dead. And my man lost his life too. I like the show right here that's going on right here because they're not making Carmelo Anthony out to look like a YN, a young nigga who ain't got nothing to live for. He had a lot of stuff to live for. And it's sad that it's over. And I knew it was going to be over from the beginning because he stabbed someone and he ran. That's just my first opinion. And he killed the white man in Texas. Simple as that. He killed a white kid that was an athlete. Ain't no telling how far his athletics would have taken him. I'm a football fan, and I know Texas, they have some good football players come out of there year in and year out. So ain't no telling how far he would have made it in football. They looking at that. Come on, man. I knew it was over for Carmelo after that.
You should never ignore. And it was written specifically for women who are done being blindsided in relationships, in family situations, in life. Women who looked back after the damage was done and asked, how did I not see that coming? It draws directly from true crime cases just like this one, from criminal psychology, from survivor accounts, and it gives you the exact same pattern recognition tools that investigators are trained to use translated into plain, everyday language that any woman can apply to her own life, right now, today. Because the warning signs are almost always there early. The problem is nobody ever taught us what to look for until now. The link is in the description below. Go check it out, and let's get back to the story. So, April 2nd, 2025, Frisco, Texas. David Kuykendall Stadium. It was a track and field championship meet, a big one. Multiple high schools competing, students warming up, coaches running drills, parents in the stands. The kind of day that track athletes work the entire season for. And then the weather turned. Thunderstorms rolled in, heavy rain, the meet was delayed, and when that happens at a track meet, everyone scrambles for cover. Tents, bleacher awnings, whatever they can find. Now, this next part is important, so stay with me here. Each school at a track meet brings their own team tent. That tent belongs to their team. Their gear is in it. Their athletes shelter in it. Their coaches operate from it. It is their space. That is understood. That is the culture of track and field competition at every level. Memorial High School, Austin Metcalf School had their tents set up in the bleachers. And Carmelo Anthony from Centennial High School sat himself down inside it. Now, people noticed immediately. Students told him to leave multiple times. Hunter Metcalf, Austin's twin brother, told Carmelo directly, "This is our tent, you need to go." Carmelo didn't move.
Listen at this. Listen at this bullshit that he just said. They told him to leave. They're trying to make him leave.
From Centennial High School, sat himself down inside it. Now, people noticed immediately. Students told him to leave multiple times. Hunter Metcalf, Austin's twin brother, told Carmelo
They pushed him and provoked
"This is
him
our
to
tent.
leave.
You need to go." Carmelo didn't move. Okay, so, and I want you to hold this moment because this is where the prosecution's entire narrative takes shape. The witnesses who testified at trial consistently described Carmelo not as someone who was uncertain or confused. They described someone who was defiant, who refused to leave, who was, in the words of multiple students, the one driving this confrontation forward. Austin Metcalf stepped in. Words were exchanged. The argument escalated fast, the way these things do when two teenage boys with something to prove are in a tense situation. And at some point, Carmelo Anthony reached into a bag and he said 4 words: "Touch me and see what happens." 4 words. That is in the police report, documented, on record. And the prosecution would return to those 4 words again and again throughout this entire trial. Because those are not the words of someone who is scared and defending themselves. Those are the words of someone issuing a warning, a threat, an invitation to escalate. Austin Metcalf pushed Carmelo Anthony, and Carmelo Anthony pulled out a pocket knife and stabbed Austin Metcalf in the chest. It was approximately 10 in the morning. Dozens of students were nearby. It happened in seconds. Now, let's talk about what happened next. Austin Metcalf.
That's how I know.
stabbed
I'm gonna tell you how I know he was a bully. I'm gonna tell y'all how I know Austin Metcalf was a bully. Because if someone tells you, touch me and see what happens, what the fuck are you gonna touch them again for? To see what that motherfucker he lost his life, but he could have shot him instead of stabbing him. If he was a YN, he probably would have shot him. But being, he had a knife on him. Personally, what made me think he was guilty from the jump is that he had a knife on school grounds. But I watched the news earlier this morning, and they was talking about the blade side was just enough for it not to be a crime, and it's not a crime to have a knife on the school grounds, which was shocking to me. So that was back to, I think Austin Metcalf was a bully, and he came down there after they quote unquote told him to leave. No, they bullied him and was pushing him and provoking him to leave. And then he told him, touch me again. See, how many times was he touched until he started taking up for himself? Is what I want to know. And then what was he on? And then they say Austin Metcalf touched him like that right there, like a little bullshit ass touch. Like, I'm gonna touch you so soft and gentle, just to see how much pressure you gonna bring. And I'll be there. Carmelo brought that motherfucking pressure on his ass.
Chest with a pocket knife at a school event, in the bleachers, in front of teammates, in front of other students, in front of coaches and parents who had absolutely no idea they were about to witness something like this. He did not survive. Austin Metcalf, 17 years old, died that day over a tent, over a refusal to move, over 4 words and a knife that should never have been there. The chaos that followed was immediate. Emergency services responded. Students stood in shock. Some were crying. Some were frozen, not fully processing what they had just seen. This was not a crime scene in an alley somewhere. This was a school track meet, a Tuesday morning in April, and a boy was dead. Carmelo Anthony was taken into custody at the scene, arrested. He was 17 years old. He had no prior criminal history, none, not a single prior incident with law enforcement. By every legal measure before that morning, he was a clean slate. And yet, he carried a pocket knife to a school track meet, and when the confrontation peaked, he used it. Now the Metcalf family, Hunter Metcalf, Austin's twin, had been right there, had told Carmelo to leave, had watched his brother step in, had watched his brother die. That is a level of grief and trauma that no amount of time fully resolves. None.
I whip my head around, and then all of a sudden I see him run down the bleach, just grabbing his chest. He's blood rushing out. You know what I mean? So, and then I stabbed. First I froze for half a second. I didn't know what to do. And then I saw my fall. We'll go over there. I grabbed him. I see.
Supastar.
And the Anthony family, Drew and Kala, who had spent.
Now I feel sorry for the mama. The mama lost her child. I feel sorry for the mother. The daddy, I feel sorry for the daddy too, but there's some bullshit going on out there about the daddy. They say the daddy is an opportunist. They say he didn't really fuck with Austin, and his twin brother didn't really fuck with their daddy like that. They also say Austin broke his daddy's arm a couple of motherfucking years ago. So that right there, if you break your daddy's arm, you don't fuck with your daddy. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't until this here came around, you know, you see a couple of pictures of him with Austin and the kid, you know, his brother in their football, like after they just got finished playing a football game, but that don't mean shit. So
spent years building their son up, investing in him, believing in him, were now watching their 17-year-old face a murder charge. Two families torn apart by a rain delay and a pocket knife. Prosecutors made the decision quickly. Given Carmelo's age of 17, Texas law permitted trying him as an adult. Because Texas allows this for 17-year-olds charged with serious violent crimes. And first-degree murder is as serious as it gets. The decision was made. Carmelo Anthony would face this in adult court. Okay, now I want to address something directly, because it is important, and I think ignoring it would be dishonest. This case went national almost immediately, and it became about a lot more than what happened in that tent. Carmelo Anthony is black. Austin Metcalf was white. And in 2025 America, that became part of the conversation. Fast. Social media exploded. Before a single piece of evidence was presented in a courtroom, people had already decided. Some saw Carmelo as a young black man who would be railroaded by a system with a long history of being unfair to people who look like him. They pointed to Texas self-defense laws. They asked, will those same protections apply here? Others took the position that the facts were clear. A boy was dead, another boy stabbed him, accountability matters, period. Both conversations happening simultaneously. Online, on podcasts, in living rooms, in barbershops, and eventually right outside the Collin County Courthouse. When the trial began on June 1st, 2026, nearly 14 months after the stabbing, there were lines of spectators hoping to get seats in the public gallery, heavy security inside and out. Supporters of Carmelo, standing outside in 90-degree Texas heat, demonstrating, holding signs. Now, I want to be careful here, because I think it is absolutely possible to acknowledge all of that context, the racial dynamics, the historical weight, the public passion, while also staying focused on what actually happened in that tent. A 17-year-old boy was stabbed and killed. His family deserved a fair trial, based on real evidence, with real witnesses, in a real courtroom. That's what happened. And the jury, 12 people who sat through every hour of testimony, made their decision based on what they heard in that room. Not on social media, not on any podcast. In that courtroom, their decision was unanimous. That matters. All right, now let's get into the evidence. And look, I want to put on the legal cap here for a minute, because the central question in this case was never really what happened. The broad strokes were not in dispute. Carmelo Anthony stabbed Austin Metcalf. That was not contested. The question, the entire question was why, and what that why means under the law. So what did the prosecution actually have? Let's walk through it. Number one, eyewitnesses. And this is huge. This is really, really significant. This was not a crime that happened in a dark alley with no one around. This happened at a school championship meet with students everywhere. And those students talked. Multiple witnesses testified. They described the full sequence. Carmelo refusing to leave, the argument escalating, Carmelo reaching into his bag, the threat, touch me and see what happens. Austin pushing him, the knife coming out.
Everybody! It's starting! Hurry up!
I think they was bullshitting and lying.
More with new 2K Plus Smart Security. With Link 2K Plus, get set up at...
Now, eyewitness testimony has limitations. We know that. Memory is fallible. Stress affects perception. Defense attorneys know how to challenge it. But here is what makes the eyewitness testimony in this case particularly powerful. There were multiple witnesses, independent accounts, and they were consistent. When you have multiple people who didn't coordinate with each other, all describing the same sequence of events, that is a prosecutor's dream. Because the defense cannot simply say one person is lying or misremembering. They have to explain why multiple people are all telling the same story. They couldn't. Number two, the documented statement, touch me and see what happens, in the police report, on record. And prosecutor Bill Wersky leaned on this hard. He told the jury directly, you don't get to meet a shove with a stab, especially if you provoke the shove. Think about what that means legally.
How did he provoke the shove?
Law, you have the right.
How did he provoke the shove? By going up under a fucking tent because it was raining? Yeah, he broke the fucking sports code. He broke the sports code. Yeah, okay. But did he deserve to get pushed and shoved? And I wouldn't doubt being called a racial slur? No. If Patrick Mahomes went into the New York Giants locker room at halftime, yeah, I could see some shoving and going on and all that kind of stuff like that right there to testosterone. That's what I'm saying about the football player, the white guy, Austin Metcalf. He's a football player. He's aggressive. He's going down there pushing this kid. Carmelo Anthony played football too, but he wasn't aggressive. He was aggressive once he told them, "Hey man, don't put your hands on me." Maybe the reason why he stabbed him is because okay, if I hit one of them, maybe the rest of them will be like, "Oh, okay." Man, come on, man.
To defend yourself, but that right is not unlimited. If you are the one who created the dangerous situation,
how did he create the dangerous situation? How?
Provoked the confrontation, your self-defense claim becomes far more complicated, far harder to sustain. That was the prosecution's core argument. Carmelo Anthony did not stumble into a dangerous situation. He created one. He refused to leave when asked. He escalated.
This ain't the 60s no more. What the fuck?
He threatened. He reached for a knife before a punch was even thrown. And when Austin Metcalf responded to that threat by pushing him, Carmelo used deadly force. Number three, the broader argument, Wersky told that jury, this case is about accountability. He asked them, what kind of community do you want to live in? One where a teenage athlete can be stabbed to death at a school track meet over a tent, and the person who did it walks free? That is a powerful note to leave with 12 people in a deliberation room. And it clearly landed. Now, to be completely fair, let's talk about the defense, because their argument was not baseless. There was a real legal theory here, and defense attorney Mike Howard presented it seriously. Howard's argument rested on two pillars: Texas law and the physical reality of that moment. On Texas law, Howard was correct about one important thing. Texas has strong self-defense protections. The law does not require that you wait to be struck before you can defend yourself. You have the right to defend yourself when you reasonably believe that force is about to be used against you. Howard told the jury,
that wasn't force? Carmelo Anthony didn't exhibit that force when he was surrounded by a group of people?
Texas law does not require that you wait until you get hit. That is an accurate statement of the law. And his argument was this: In that moment, in the chaos of that confrontation, Carmelo Anthony reasonably believed he was in danger. Austin Metcalf was in front of him, aggressive, approaching, and Carmelo, in a split second, reacted the only way he felt he could. Howard also pointed out something factually true. Austin Metcalf did push Carmelo. Physical contact was made. The defense was arguing that the push was the triggering event. That Carmelo's response, however tragic, was a direct reaction to being physically attacked.
Yeah.
Now, here is where the defense ran into serious problems. The witnesses, multiple, consistent, independent, all describing Carmelo as the aggressor, all describing him refusing to leave, all describing him making that threat, all describing him reaching into a bag before the push in a way that suggested he was already prepared for what came next. That is very hard to reconcile with a self-defense narrative, because self-defense requires that you are responding to a threat. But what the witnesses described was someone who was creating the threat.
These witnesses fucked this kid over, man. These witnesses, all Austin Metcalf's friends and his punk-ass family, his little brother who lied, talking about how he died in his arms, and they come to find out he didn't die in his arms. Man, get the fuck out of here.
Someone who issued a verbal challenge, touch me, and see what happens, and then when someone accepted that challenge, responded with a knife. That is a very different story from someone who was cornered and scared. And then there is the decision Carmelo made with his legal team not to testify. And look, that is his right, entirely constitutionally protected. The judge instructed the jury they cannot hold his silence against him, and legally they cannot. But juries are human. 12 people in a room trying to figure out what was going on in someone's head in a moment of crisis, and they never hear from that person. That is a gap, not a legal one, but a human one. The self-defense argument had real legal grounding in theory, but in practice, against multiple consistent eyewitnesses, a documented threat, and a jury that came back in under 3 hours, it did not survive. Okay, let's walk through the trial itself. Jury selection, June 1st, 2026. And from that very first day, the energy around this courthouse was unlike anything Collin County had seen in a long time, maybe ever. Lines of people hoping to get into the public gallery every single day. Media set up outside. Heavy security throughout. This had been a national story for 14 months. And now it was finally happening in real time. Inside the courtroom, Judge John Roach Jr. presided, and he ran a tight ship. He repeatedly warned the gallery, control your emotions. This is a court of law, not a courtroom of public opinion. The testimony stretched across nearly a week. And here is what struck me about the witness list. So many of them were young, students.